just here for the sympathy vote with these guys. Angle's fine. So first of all, this has been an awesome event, and I'm really honored to have the keynote. I think we should have more events like this in New York City, so like I'm really happy that this happened. There's been like a ton of really smart people here on stage, some of whom I know, some of whom I'm learning from for the first time right now. So yeah, I'm honored to be here. And yeah, my name's Adam Hattie. I'm a user acquisition consultant here in New York City. What that means is that I help apps with user acquisition. So that's anything from running Facebook campaigns to kind of building your mobile stack to my specialty, which is influencer marketing. I should say that's it's the funnest channel in my opinion. So when talking about influencer marketing, there's a ton of channels we can choose from. These are really the biggest ones, and all of these work, and that's really important to say. But for the purposes of my presentation, and really the work that I do, I really focus in on YouTube. And I'll go into why. Number one, it's the most scalable. YouTube's got over 1 billion users, hundreds of millions of hours of video watched every day. It's a huge, huge platform. And compared to other influencer networks, it's relatively consolidated. So you don't have to work with 1 million YouTube influencers. Really, the top channels own a big market share. In addition, it's cost effective. And really, those two are why I choose it. Those are the two biggest reasons why we do anything UA-wise, is how much scale can we get and how cost effective can it be. Beyond that, it's great for DR because unlike, let's say, Snapchat or a lot of the live channels, you can link out and you can measure. And so with a attribution link at the top of the description, you can I'll get into attribution a little bit more later, but yeah, you can measure that way. And in addition, when you think about YouTube and really the way we engage with YouTube, in terms of internet activities, it's a huge commitment. I mean, sitting there watching a YouTube video compared to, let's say, scrolling through your Instagram feed, it's you get a real captive audience. And in addition, usually a pretty hardcore audience as well. And on top of that, the metrics. Metrics are, for the most part, reliable and real. There's, fake views, fake likes, fake comments. That's a much, much, much smaller issue on YouTube. And that's great because that creates transparency and honesty between you and influencers. And going on from there, the nature of YouTube, at least most YouTube channels, is that they're super front-loaded. Maybe the day the video launches, it gets, maybe half or more than half of the views that it might get in a month. And that lends to burst effects, especially if you have an influencer in a smaller country where you can rank based on 1 video or 2 videos. And as well as trending search, that can happen as well. And so that's a nice bonus. And then on the flip side of that, these videos live forever. And so, when you do, a few dozen videos or 100 videos, all of a sudden, all these little long tails, they start to add up and they give you a nice, consistent stream of users, even, long after you've paid for them. And so, well, those are the reasons I love YouTube. But yeah, there are some reasons they suck. Attribution challenges. So I mentioned this earlier. You're not going to get 100% attribution the way we expect on traditional performance networks. You're going to get a piece, and you can work with it, and I'll discuss that a little bit later. But there's some challenges there. In addition, it's difficult to start. You can't just you can't do it alone. You need to actually work with influencers. So there's no push button to start influencer campaign, especially if you don't have the connections. Creative control. This is a bigger problem for some brands than others, but unlike, again, traditional networks, you aren't creating the creative, the influencers are. And so you have to be able to let go of some control. And so some brands, that's fine. Other brands, they have to have a lot tighter control. And then reliability and predictability. I'll say this, Facebook has never texted me at 3 in the morning telling me that they can't run ads, but influencers do. And that happens. It's not unusual for that to happen. And so reliability is certainly an issue, as well as predictability. And I mentioned it takes a little bit time to get started, and it's time consuming. It's a lot of work. And so if you notice here, more disadvantages than advantages. I'm high on YouTube, but there's certainly plenty of challenges. It's tough to reach a lot of older audiences. YouTube is a very young platform. And just looking at everyone in the audience right now, we all interact with YouTube very differently than young people. And by young people, I mean, like people 25 and under. Now, the way we probably interact with YouTube is, someone sends you a link, you click it, you watch it, like, oh, that was interesting or that was funny, and then you leave. The way a 25-year-old interacts with YouTube is they watch YouTube videos, they like it, they subscribe to 50 different people, and they go to youtube.com. They're like, oh, like the same way we might channel surf, if you're really old, they go to youtube.com, and it's a constant feed, and that's it's a very different interaction than we may have. And then on top of that, basic targeting that we may be used to with performance networks, like based on platform or device or geo, that's not necessarily going to be available when you do any influencer marketing. And so if you're only on iOS and you're not on Android, or if you're only on Android, you're essentially cutting the effectiveness of your campaigns in half. So those are certainly some challenges that go with it. But I'm mostly here to talk about the good stuff. But I'll say this, I just did a lot of talking, a little too much talking. So I'll just go ahead and play the first video. And this is just kind of a sample of what I'm actually talking about when I say YouTube marketing. So this is for a client of mine called Quid. And I'll let him explain what it is.
Hey, what is up, everybody? Chuck here, and welcome to today's very special Pokemon Go video. We are going to be hatching 8 10K eggs and 1 2K egg. They're all good to go. I have them all ready to hatch right now, and we're hoping for some Larvitars, maybe a Snorlax and a Lapras, maybe a couple Dratini's. Who knows what we'll get? Probably a bunch of Sudowoodo. But before we get into the egg hatching, I wanted to quick show you guys an awesome app called Quid. Quid is an awesome free app for Android and iPhones that you can use to collect stickers, cards, and a bunch of other cool stuff from your favorite TV shows. So as you can see right here, my favorites are Bob's Burgers, Family Guy, and Funko. I've also seen every single Bob's Burgers episode ever. So I'm kind of a big fan.
So anyways, I won't subject you to any more of that, but that's probably, hopefully what you had in mind when you think of YouTube influencers, because that's a very, very typical campaign. Can I get some head nods? Is that like, you guys have some experience with that? Does that, ring a bell? I got some head nods. Now moving on to this next, this is more of what you might expect from a podcast read. And so it's a bit of a more professional, different take on YouTube marketing. But yeah, we can go ahead and play this.
Right call. You guys ready to do this?
Yeah. I guess so.
Great. Before we do, I do have to thank today's sponsor. So happy to have them. Today's episode is brought to you by Quid. And Dan, you can display a little bit more of what Quid is. For those of you that don't know, Quid is an awesome new app on iOS and Android where you can collect cool stickers, cards, and toys for free, all on your phone. If you use emojis or stickers when you text your friends, Quid has thousands of free ones, including Rick and Morty, Bob's Burgers, Family Guy. You got to turn it a little bit more.
I've been Star Wars. I was looking at Star Trek.
He's looking at the Star Trek.
Big surprise.
Five Nights with Freddy's, Buffy Buffy.
So anyways, that should read and should be very familiar to, as if it was a podcast reading. And honestly, the execution and even the measurement of it isn't very different. So this whole like YouTube influencer stuff isn't that far off base of a lot of stuff that we're already doing already. I'll just let the next video play.
I want to thank Quid for sponsoring this video. I have been playing this app for a couple weeks now, and I think it's pretty fun. Quid is a fun and new app where you can collect cool stickers, cards, and Funko Pop, or toys, for free on your phone. Did I just scare my dog?
I just love that girl. I could watch it all day. Now, I think I won over some of you with that last video because again, she's pretty adorable. But before I play this next one, does anybody know what ASMR is? Audio sensory meridian response. Let's see some hands. All right. You guys know what I'm talking about. The rest of you, I'm probably going to lose with this video, but it's worth it anyways.
So here is the Quid app. So it's a community of users, and there's a feed, just like on Facebook or any other social media, where all of us can just comment
That's ASMR. So ASMR is people who like really enjoy soft sounds and whispering in a maybe sexual, but not necessarily sexual way. It's kind of just a relaxing. Point is, like, where else are you going to find these people except on YouTube? And, if you want to talk about a qualified user base, if you install the app after watching this video, you just watch somebody whisper about my app for 20 minutes. Like, you know the app better than I do at this point. So yeah, there's some really cool stuff you can do on YouTube, and not all of it. So I thought this was like a nice little variety to show you guys. But moving on, these are just some expectations in terms of costs that you can expect. Big ranges, as you see. So anywhere as low as maybe like a $5 CPM up to $50 CPM. And then even bigger range with conversion rates, anything from 0.1%, and that's from views to installs, up to 10% at the best performing ranges. And scale, anything from a few $100s up to 100,000 plus per video. How that translates into numbers we're familiar with. So at the top here, I have pretty much the worst outcome, which I would consider a failed video, one with a 0.1% conversion. And then all the way at the bottom, that's the best case scenario. And that's, equally as rare, but also possible. Again, both scenarios are possible. But most of what you can realistically expect comes in this 1% to 5% conversion range, which, based on a $20 CPM, which is pretty middle of the road, it's pretty reasonable and usually produces pretty good results. Now, here I am talking about influencer marketing, but CPMs, conversion rates, CPIs, it's not that different from the rest of the stuff we do. Now, when I produce reports on influencer campaigns, I'm producing them in the same Excel sheets that I have my Facebook campaigns in, that I have my performance ad networks campaigns in. All these same metrics apply. The difference, again, comes in attribution. And so here's a pretty good example of what I'm talking about. So this green section here is what actually got attributed to an influencer video. So this influencer video went live at it looks like 7 a.m. And you see here it was about 20% of the actual uplift got attributed. And so that's going to be the case with all YouTuber campaigns, is that some percent gets attributed and the rest does not. And now that multiplier effect can generally vary. I mean, again, I mentioned this is about 20%, but it can vary anywhere from maybe 15 to 40%. And so you need to be very conscious of that when you run influencer campaigns. And again, there's some challenges in measuring this, but it's, this is a pretty typical look at it. And with that, this, everything I said up until this point, pretty much facts. Pretty reliable. This is where I get a little speculative. So bear with me here. How did the actual platforms feel about influencer marketing? On one hand, some employees at Google must hate me because they're like, hey, you're essentially circumventing our ad platform and paying influencers directly to run ads on our videos. We're used to getting a slice of this. On the other hand, depending on where you work in Google, you love me because here I am sponsoring good quality content on your channel, allowing channels to, invest in their work and create good quality content, which right now everybody cares about a lot. I mean, you see that, especially with Facebook, they're investing, millions and millions of dollars subsidizing good quality content on their channel. Now, this past October, Google acquired FameBit, which was a super interesting acquisition. So FameBit is a platform which helps match brands with influencers. And so essentially what they did with this acquisition was put themselves back into getting a piece of the pie. In this case, 20%. So, any campaigns that are executed through the FameBit platform, they get a cut of. Now, additionally, something new from their end is this little checkbox you see on the right over here, which indicates that this video includes a product placement. And so I see a future, and again, speculation here, where Google really starts to enable and embrace this. And so enabling view through attribution, which would solve for that attribution issue I pointed out earlier. And again, allows me to, okay, not only is there view through attribution, but now I can retarget people who saw my sponsored video using their platform. And so it's a way for them to get, again, a bigger piece of this pie. And they have all the tools. They're holding all the cards in this game. And meanwhile, I mean, Facebook, and we saw similar changes on Instagram, and Facebook is doing the same thing. Just this week, actually, Twitch started selling games directly on their platform, meaning that I'm on Twitch watching somebody play a video game, and I'm purchasing that video game directly through that same video. That's a step in that direction. It's no coincidence that Amazon was the one who purchased Twitch. So yeah, with that, that's again a bit of speculation on my end in terms of I view influencer marketing as a performance channel. I treat it like a performance channel. It is a performance channel, but in the future, I really see these merging into each other and not being considered quite so differently. And I think the platforms are going to play a big part of this. And it's going to be very interesting to see kind of who makes the first moves in terms of who allows this monetization to happen, who encourages it, and who's competing for these content creators. But that's just about a wrap. I would love for some questions. I just said a lot of stuff, and I see some over there.
Yeah, so I've been influencer marketing space for a while, right? And I just want to catch up for everybody thinking about doing this. The FCC is in the process of starting to regulate this space because we're seeing a lot of people like your first video would be subject to fines by the FCC. So you need to make sure that when you're doing influencer marketing video that the influencer itself says that it's a sponsored content, or else if you do not do that and do it exclusive notion that this is sponsored content, it could be subject by the FCC to fines even a year or two down the road because the content is essentially so just be aware that's all.
That's a really great point he makes, and it's the FTC, and we saw this actually at WB Games, where they got some pretty heavy fines later on. That's something that's really important with all my influencers. I tell them, hey, make note of this. Hopefully, check the box. Make note of it in the description. And one might have slipped by me with that first guy, but I should say that video goes on for another 2 minutes, so hopefully he mentions it there. But no, that's actually a really fair point. Are we? I think I'm done.